I'm delighted to be interviewing the one and only Mr. David Icke. It's been quite a few years since we've had a chat, and what with people making a film about him and all of his travels, and actually getting banned from continents. I mean, here we are complaining that we're getting shadow banned off of Facebook, and Mr. Icke's actually getting banned from whole continents. So obviously I'd like to touch on that with him. And I've got quite a few questions come in from Facebook followers, which I've been asked to ask him, and I'm sure he'll be delighted in answering them. So without further ado, Mr. David Icke, hello.
Hiya, Louise. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. More like it. What's going on with you? You're getting banned from countries and continents. You're having movies made about you. What's going on in the crazy world of David Icke?
Well, it's all kicking off, really. Very positively in the sense of the movie that's going to be available on June the 4th, which people can get details about it on davidicke.com and how to watch it. That's about an hour and 40 minutes, I think, and it's been shown at a number of premieres, one of which was banned in Los Angeles. So it's gone down a bomb. You know, it gone down fantastically well. And what I've found very encouraging is that people who are kind of into my work have gone along with people who know nothing about it, and they found the movie in many cases perception transforming. Because it's a film based on my life, but that's just the theme. The whole point of doing it is that it's absolutely packed with information across a whole range of subjects, which, like I say, was the point of doing it, to get the information out to not just people who know what I'm about, but people who don't, and so that's very good. But of course, the more successful you are in challenging and exposing the official narrative, the more the authorities want to shut you down. So it's almost like a war medal, really, to be banned from Australia.
I mean, how did that come about? Where did this come? Because you were all set to go off to Australia, and then the next minute there's a press release. Why did they decide at the final hour that you were too much of a threat to let in?
Well, I tell you what's kind of funny, in a funny, pathetic way, is that the people that tell me I'm wrong are the same people that prove me right. So they have no
irony.
They have no self-awareness to see that that's the case, but that's the truth. So my son Jamie applied for visas for us to go and do I think it was a 6-city speaking tour in Australia, and I got the visa. Jamie obviously got his because he was just the organizer, but me, the troublemaker as they perceive me, got the visa in September 2018 because they really couldn't find a way not to give it to me, because I've been there 10 times. There was never any trouble, but there is trouble now because we're passing the threshold of the number of people that are looking at my information and are interested in what I'm doing. That's the danger. Not me, but the interest. So I go off to speak in Mexico in February, and we were coming back to Los Angeles to fly out to Australia to start the tour. And 4 hours before the plane left, we were sitting in a hotel bar waiting to go to the airport. Jamie got a document sent to him from the Immigration Ministry of Australia, the ministry that gave me the visa in September. And it was from the immigration minister, a bloke called David Coleman, and he was saying that you're banned from Australia because I don't pass the character test. Apparently, I would be a danger to a aspect or part of the Australian community, and now we know exactly what part of the Australian community he's talking about. Suddenly, I've not been a threat 10 times I've been to Australia. I wasn't a threat in September in all the months that followed, but 4 hours before my plane left, I'm suddenly a threat. And he managed to pull it off because there is a law in Australia that allows the immigration minister to, off his own bat, just decide to ban people. And
oh, really?
what the oh, and by the way, we made a legal appeal to it, and we're still waiting for them to reply. I mean, they have such contempt; it's unbelievable. I mean, this guy, David Coleman, the immigration minister, you know where he's coming or when he's coming long before he arrives because you can hear his backbone vibrating. And the reason that he suddenly had this desire or this Damascus-like experience that I was a danger to Australian society was because of basically a single man called Devere Abramovich, who runs a man and a dog organisation in Australia called the Anti-Defamation Commission.
Nothing to do with old Maria Abramovich and that lot. Completely separate, I presume.
Well, this organisation, which like the Anti-Defamation League in America, is an Orwellian inversion because its modus operandi is defaming people, and like the whole global network that comes out of Israel, the Abramovich organisation is a front for the Israeli government, and of course, you've seen how the anti-Semitism industry and what I call the protection racket for Israel, has been ramped up, not least in this country. And the idea is to intimidate people into not criticising Israel because they don't want to be called anti-Semitic. Basically, I don't give a damn what people call me. There's no interest to me. I'm interested in the truth, not what people call me. So I'm a bit of a problem because I'm not intimidated by him. And so he started this campaign. And let's just break this down because the Jewish population of Australia is 0.4%. That's the Jewish population of Australia. This man Abramovich probably represents 0.4% of the 0.4%. But because he's got Israel behind him, he's able to intimidate moronic backbone vibrators like David Coleman to do his bidding for him. So that's how it came about. And there were two other sinister reasons. In fact, the whole document that was sent to Jamie was extraordinary because 2/3 of the document was detailing why I should be let in and all the reasons why I should be let in, like I've been 10 times, it's not a problem and all this stuff. And then the last few lines are why I shouldn't be let in. And it was that I was a danger to one part of the Australian community, which it means Abramovich has told him to say. And the other two reasons, there were one or two others which were even more bizarre, something to do with Iran. I mean, God knows what that was all about. Anyway, the other two were extremely sinister. It was my views on vaccines and my views on the hoax of human-caused climate change. So this is the situation, you see, and this is like a macrocosm or a microcosm of the macrocosm, in the sense that it's very simple. If you can't win a debate, then you don't have one. If you can't win the debate on open discourse and the free flow of information and opinion, and they know they can't on all this stream of different subjects, then they simply shut them down. And they silence any other view but the official one. This is what we see across the whole spectrum of human society. And so the pharmaceutical industry, for instance, can say what it likes about vaccines. It can make billions and billions of dollars from vaccines. And it can lie about vaccines, as it does all the time. But that's fine.
Isn't Australia now? Isn't it like it's also the vaccines are practically mandatory now over there, isn't it? I know they did the big push for the HPV vaccine to be given to boys as well. I know it was Australia who first did it over there. and I think it was either Australia or New Zealand where girls that studies were coming back that girls were becoming infertile because of the HPV.
Yeah, well, what they're doing in Australia is they're doing it in steps. The first step they've done is to say that if you're on government benefits, then you're going to have them cut if you don't have your child vaccinated according to the government schedule. In America, there are more and more states led by California that are making vaccinations mandatory. And of course, the campaign in California was headed by a guy called Richard Pan, who is a state senator and takes money from the pharmaceutical cartel. We've now had the health minister in Britain say that mandatory vaccinations in Britain are not off the table. And we've had a man of extraordinary arrogance and moronic mentality, a Scottish Labour MP, who has suggested that not vaccinating your children should be a criminal offence. And what I'm doing at the moment is reading a phenomenal book by an American doctor. It's called Vaccines, a Reappraisal. And every parent should read it. And if they do, then parents having their children vaccinated would absolutely plummet if they realise what's really going on and what the truth is and what the figures of vaccine damage really are. But to hide this, they are demonising what they call anti-vaxxers. And they
I've been getting it here, David. I've been getting it here because my kids aren't vaccinated, and I've been getting a hell of a time of it.
Yeah, well, what you've got to understand how it all works, and it's all structural in the end, because that's how they pull it off. You've got the pharmaceutical industry that controls the medical profession organisations like the British Medical Association. And the British Medical Association and its network controls the medical profession, which means that the pharmaceutical cartel, through the BMA and other organisations, controls the medical profession. It's a situation where doctors and medical staff are just the propagandists and protectors often of the pharmaceutical industry, and not least vaccinations. In America, they've given the pharmaceutical giants immunity from prosecution, immunity from lawsuits from parents with damaged children. It's just extraordinary.
That is just shocking.
Now, this always tells you something.
Yeah.
If they want to shut down the debate on something and they want to silence opposition to something, that something is very, very important to them. Now, these psychopaths, actually, they make psychopaths look like, Mary Poppins, but these psychopaths have no concern whatsoever for the health and well-being of children, which tells you something else. The reason they want to vaccinate children is another reason. It's not to help children. The figures show the damage that they do and how the myths of vaccination are legion. So it's not about that. So it's about something else. And of course, what you have with vaccinations is the ability to insert whatever cocktail of toxins and other things, including aluminium, that you want to put into the bodies of your target population. This is what you see. The whole freedom thing has always been an illusion. Freedom, as it's lived in human society, goes like this: you are free to do what we tell you.
Exactly.
If you accept vaccinations, then you are free to accept vaccinations. But if enough of you don't accept them, well, we've got to take your freedom away and make them mandatory. So do what we say and you're free. Don't do what we say and we'll impose what was always the case anyway. But you were just agreeing to it. Now you're not agreeing to it. Right, okay, well, we've got to come out from the shadows and show you that actually you're not free and weren't free all along. This is how the whole thing works.
Yeah. You mentioned California there. I just want to touch, what is going on with the sanctuary cities and the state of California at the moment. I mean, I saw something recently there's human feces just on the sidewalk. I mean, it is a total and utter. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, David. But seeing the clips coming from California and how they're making these sanctuary cities. I mean, what's in your opinion? What is going on with these sanctuary cities? I mean, we've got the border crisis as well over there. What's going on? But these sanctuary cities and that. What are your thoughts on it? Well, why has this been allowed? Why has this happened?
In the end, it comes down to George Soros, and George Soros is just a gopher for people higher up the hierarchy, but he's at the level of operation, if you like. It's where it basically comes from, and the Open Society Foundations and all that stuff that he runs in 100 countries. The idea, and I've been writing about this for a long, long time, is to open the borders to mass unchecked immigration, to transform the nature of human society. This global society that they want to create involves a fusion of cultures, a fusion of races, to the point where there is basically no racial difference and there's no cultural difference. It's just one blob. And to do that, you've got to find reasons to open the borders or not police the borders that are already there. And so when Trump came in, and I'm no supporter of Trump to say the very bloody least, but when he came in and talked about a border wall, that was always going to be blocked because it was against the agenda. And ironically, during Trump's period in office, the numbers crossing the border illegally from the south have absolutely soared.
They have, yeah.
And I've been, pointing out for a long time that this was the plan. And what's going to happen eventually is that there will be a movement of people from the south so vast it will be unstoppable. That's where they're going. And so you have to create a situation in which people know that if they do enter the country illegally, or if they seek entry to the United States, the system is so flawed that they'll almost certainly get in. The latest estimate is that there's about 20 million or plus people in America who are not legally there. And this is... let's come down to the name of that organization that Soros runs worldwide, the Open Society Foundations. What it really should be called, to be really accurate, is Open Borders Foundation. The same network is operating in Europe to do the same, and it's operating in America to create what we're seeing now. Of course, the people that are pushing this whole agenda are so-called progressives.
Where did this come from, though? We've missed this. They've turned so far left, but it's come out of nowhere.
Yeah, but
it's literally blinked, and then all of a sudden, it's this severe far left communist kind of, as you say, progressive. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just, where did it come from, David?
Well, I have a saying I've been used for a long time. If it comes out of nowhere and it's suddenly everywhere, it's the agenda. And what's happened is the traditional liberal left, which is how I was brought up from that direction, has been completely hijacked by people who pose as liberals. It does irritate me when I see these progressives in America described as liberals. They're not liberal. Everything about them is the absolute antipathy of liberal.
It's more the Libertarian Party you would class as the liberal, wouldn't you? Well, the freedom and liberty.
Yeah,
but as you say, they've hijacked the word liberal.
Yeah, and people who say they oppose them call them liberal, which underpins the same myth.
Yeah.
So if you look at the driving force of mass immigration and open borders, which has implications I'll come to in a second, and the political correctness agenda, the banning of people with a different opinion agenda, it's all being driven by the progressive left, or what I call now the Soros left, the Soros progressives, because he's the biggest funder of that whole thing. He's brought it about on behalf of the masters that control him. And they, at the same time, talk about having a social justice and in effect, a welfare state coming in to help poor people, etc. But of course, the motivation in the vast majority of these progressives is actually virtue signaling. It's actually saying, look at me, I'm such a nice person, and you have a different opinion, you're a horrible person. And the working out of the basic logic of the situation is never done. And of course, if you have open borders, which is what the more extreme of them are calling for, and in fact is increasingly happening from the South in America, then forget a welfare state. Forget any.
You can't have the two, though, can you? How can you have open borders and a welfare state when you've got the majority of the Americans paying their taxes to be funding and looking after illegal immigrants, because they're trying to make all illegal immigrants also have the free health care?
Yeah, but of course that's all to encourage the movement of people from the South.
Of course.
And when you look into the background of this, in the media, it appears that people are walking long distances through Central America to get to the southern border. And some may be, but the great numbers of them are being bussed there very systematically. With
a little paycheck as well to go with it, isn't it?
By Soros money. Some of them are being given credit cards. So it's all systematic. It's being done on purpose. And of course, the defense mechanism from this is you're a racist. Well, hold on a second. What about all the first of all, when you have vast numbers of people coming in from the South who are basically poor people with limited skills, they are going to compete for jobs with the working class of America. And it's going to serve the interests of the corporations, etc., because they're going to drive wages down, because you say you're not going to do it for that pathetic wage. That's okay, someone else will, so we'll see you later. This is what's happening. This is why so many people are now sleeping in the street. They can't work because they've been undercut. It's not the only reason, but they've been undercut in wages by migrants coming in and undercutting previous migrants. And what's also coming in from the South are gangs of extreme violence like MS-13 who prey overwhelmingly on their fellow Central Americans from El Salvador and what have you. So it's not a racist thing at all. It's a numbers thing. And so you say, well, okay, you want more housing, you want more jobs, you want more healthcare, So how does that square with all these people coming into the country? I mean, but they can't square it, so they don't have that debate. They just shout racist at you. It's basically it's basic mathematics. That's what it is, and it's also changing societies culturally and fusing cultures and in the end fusing races. Because this is what the whole global agenda is designed to do. So while people currently are pointing out that Western societies are being transformed and American societies being transformed, actually all cultures are being targeted. The idea is to have no individual cultures at all, just one blob culture globally, which will be a very different world to the one we live in now. And the progressive so-called left, it's not really, if only, are the stormtroopers and the Twitter stormtroopers of it.
Absolutely. While we're talking about the border crossing, the drugs and the guns, it kind of links on a little bit to the child trafficking, Nexium, Clinton Foundation. Bill and Hillary Clinton, the so-called video of her and Huma Abedin. Where could you see all this going? Are we going to see justice? Is this going to be finally exposed? Are these people going to stand trial and stand accountable for the crimes against children? For listeners out there who don't know, there's rumours has it there's been video release of somebody linked with the Nexium who was also working for Jeffrey Epstein. Her name was Rachel Chandler. There was her Instagram photos before it got closed down did get leaked out, and there were photographs of presumably the tunnels down under Epstein Island, underneath his famous sort of temple thing, which did look like, zooming in close. A lot of the anonymous boys and researchers online had a look. They managed to zoom in close, and it did look like there were people sitting round in sacrificial robes. Are we going to see anything happen with this, David?
Well, first of all, enormous numbers of children are being trafficked across the southern border of America.
Yeah.
While the heart on the sleeve progressives just look on and basically allow it to happen and don't even go there.
No.
But as you know, I've been researching this whole Satanism pedophilia arena for way back in the 1990s. I started, and I came across the Clintons' involvement in this about 1996-7.
Yeah.
So it's been going on ever since. Of course, the Clinton body count of people who are no longer with us, who knew something about the Clintons, just goes on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the point is, in terms of what's going to happen, is this: the whole structure of the hierarchy of human control is populated by Satanists and pedophiles. Not every last one of them, but a fantastic proportion of them. And therefore, to expose the Clintons and put them in a court of law is to expose themselves. So until you have a different mentality, until we get the psychopaths out of government, the psychopaths, the Satanists, and the pedophiles, of course, they're going to, I'll watch your back, you watch mine. You look at what's happened with the Westminster paedophile ring, how they all rushed around to watch each other's backs and put the lid on what promised to be a massive revelation, supported by the media, of course, which also is connected to this same network. So, you look at Jimmy Savile. How did Jimmy Savile survive as a record-breaking paedophile all those decades with his close associations to the royal family and Prince Charles, and with the police knowing what he was up to, and absolutely the intelligence services knowing what he was up to, because the system protects its own. And because he was supplying children to the rich and famous, not least politically rich and famous, if he went down, they went down. So he wasn't going to go down. It only came out after he died, not before. So you've got basically the same situation in the United States, whereby if the Clintons go down, the system goes down. Because, there's enough pedophiles within the greater body of human society, but when you get to those so-called upper echelons, the ratio is fantastic in terms of Satanism and pedophilia. So they all have an interest in it not coming out. So if it's going to come out, it's got to be brought out by the people directly. It's certainly not going to be brought out by the system.
The satanic witch abuse. I'm actually due to speak to Wilfred Wong. He's been he spoke to John Wedger recently. What are your thoughts? Is I know we know it goes on. How prominent is it going on in this country? We had the huge Hampstead case. We've got Sabine McNeil in prison. where do you, how is it going in this country? Is it still a massive network? Is it still a huge problem going on in this country, would you say, David?
But the establishment is based on it. The establishment, the inner core of the establishment, is paedophilia, is Satanism. It's the whole, it's the strands that hold the web together. And there are deeper esoteric reasons for this. I've written about this in the books. In the end, this world is being manipulated by entities that operate outside of our band of frequency, so we don't see them. But this is what the Satanists are interacting with in their rituals. This is what they're worshipping.
Do you think they're getting worried that they're getting more exposed?
Well,
more people are aware of it. Do you think that there's anything within them that are slightly concerned that stuff might be coming out?
I think they got very concerned when the Westminster paedophile ring started to unfold. Absolutely. And we just have to keep going and going and going, and that's why you've had such a discrediting campaign going on as a protection of this web. But you see, these entities are which Christianity calls demons, and the Islamic belief system calls jinn, and they've got different names in different cultures, but they all describe the same force, the same entities. They feed off the energy of children. When a child goes through puberty, we see it as hormonal change, but actually it's an energetic information change that creates the hormonal change. They want the energy of children before that happens. I mean, I've talked to shamans around the world who told me the same story from their cultural background. Right. And so the paedophilia and these entities and Satanism are fundamentally connected, because while the paedophile is having sex with a child, the entity is drawing off through the conduit of the paedophile. He's drawing off the energy of the child and feeding off it. It may sound fantastic to most people, but it's actually happening, and this is where you get this fundamental connection between paedophiles and Satanists, and why so many Satanists are paedophiles and so many paedophiles are Satanists. This is the connection, especially in the upper echelons, and the
adrenochrome as well. Because people, you get into conversation with people who you think are kind of a little bit awake, and then you bring in the Satanism and the adrenochrome, you're like, the barriers go up. No, don't want to know anymore. Can't talk about it.
Well, yeah, because the whole point the whole point of the conspiracy, its whole foundation, is controlling human perception. And part of controlling human perception is controlling the sense of the possible. If you can constrict people's sense of the possible, they will wave away the truth as impossible and it couldn't be happening when it is happening, because their perception of the possible is so narrow. And I call it the postage stamp consensus. If you take people going through if you like, a regular lifetime, from cradle to grave, they will actually have access, if they only get their information from mainstream sources, to an extraordinarily narrow band of information and possibility. And that is, again, the way that we form our perceptions and from information received. If you can squeeze the information that people receive, you squeeze their perception of possibility, their perception of everything. And again, if you're going to squeeze that information they see and have access to, then you have to squeeze through censorship other forms of information they might hear. And in this period, since the internet began until recently, relatively recently, the free flow of information has had a massive impact in awakening people to the fact the world's not like they thought it was. Now they're trying to put the lid on that and shut it down. And this is where all the war on freedom of speech and the any narrative that challenges the official one, it's where it comes from. Because in the end, you see, people, you might look at Zuckerberg at Facebook and Brin and Page at Google. You might look at Jeff Bezos at Amazon. And you might think they're individuals running individual companies. They're not. In effect, they are front men for the source, the force that controls all of them. And that's why they operate in unity. And once you create, as they have, a domination of information and where people get it from on the internet, then you're in the realm of algorithms, where even without human input, you can stop things where they're going. Not only take things down, but stop them even being posted in the first place. That's their goal. So it's and algorithms will allow them to do that. And so it's systematic, and it's all about controlling human perception by controlling the information that people receive.
Yeah. I just want to touch now on going towards the joke that's become Brexit. And I mean, oh, what a mess. What a bloody mess. I mean, for starters, personally, May should have never been brought in. I mean, she was a Remainer. She shouldn't have been brought in. It should have been done. We should have got out. We had a guy, do you know, Carl Benjamin, going as Sargon of Akkad?
All right, yeah.
He went and stood for UKIP, but he went to Totnes, where I was living. I lost the FM show. I did a show with Max Egan, actually, and we were discussing social justice warriors, and we were discussing the fact that there's no such thing as gender neutral. You're born male and female, and in some very small cases, hermaphrodites. Well, we had plenty of emails come into the show and what a great show it is. Some locals within Totnes called up and complained because I'm so far right and that I can't have my kind of views coming across on the station. Yeah. So I was silenced. I could no longer broadcast on FM because I was too dangerous to put on air. This Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, came to give a talk. Again, he was like just a bit like what old Crowder does in America: come and talk, change my mind. So he's there in Totnes town, and I've never seen anything like it, David. I don't know if I meant to send you the videos, but you've got people there throwing manure at veterans, elderly gentlemen in their 80s who are just holding up a Leave Means Leave banner, and adults in their 40s are throwing manure at them. A young 16-year-old girl who I managed to get to interview, I went up, I've got it all on film. She was punched in the face. She was a Gothic girl, and she had a sign saying "Goths for Brexit." She actually got punched in the face. They had their tyres slashed. Dylan, my other half, he had his crucifix. He went to stop a milkshake getting thrown, and him being 6'6", he went and stopped the shake, and they ripped his crucifix off his neck and started abusing him, his little cross. You've never seen scenes like it. And they're like Totnes against hate, and like what? I mean, it was just total and utter liberals.
But they're liberals,
and they're there screaming for another referendum. And I just like your take on the whole Brexit stuff, David, at the moment. And are we going to see a Brexit? I mean, I don't think Johnson. I mean, they're saying bloody Boris Johnson, but I personally don't think he's even going to get a chance because he's implicated with the Five Eyes and the whole spying on the Trump campaign. So I can't see him. I don't think they're putting his name out there, the press, but I don't even think he'll run for it.
Well, the thing is that unless there's a no-deal Brexit, we won't get the Brexit that people voted for. That's for sure. And I said on the internet within an hour of the Brexit referendum result, this is just the start because the system's not going to go quietly here. And of course they've done everything they can. The Labour Party has been a disgrace.
Absolutely.
Jeremy Corbyn has been a disgrace. The man who talks like a radical and acts like the establishment.
Exactly.
And the Liberal Democrats have been a disgrace. The Green Party's been a disgrace. And what you're describing in what happened in Totnes is a typical day in the life of the liberal progressives who are further to the right than anyone that they condemn. Because what they're saying is, I am right, we are right because we are pure, and therefore, what benefit is there in having free speech for anyone else
But
who has a
not one
different
person.
opinion?
Not
Because
one person had an argument. Not one person actually had an argument when asking questions. None of them
no, but
had a
but that's the whole
single
point.
answer.
That's the whole point. They shut the debate down because they
Yeah,
can't win it. You see what you've seen is a systematic, both sides of the English Channel, in Westminster and in Brussels, a systematic destruction of what the people voted for. And when you've got the Labour Party of Jeremy Corbyn playing a major role in destroying what the heartland Labour areas of the urban areas of Britain voted for, and the urban areas of England voted for, it is just extraordinary. The world has gone completely bonkers. And there's many things that I don't agree with Nigel Farage about. His support for Trump, for a start, but he has done a brilliant job. Without him, there wouldn't have been a Brexit referendum, and he's done a brilliant job with the Brexit Party to act as a vehicle for people to say, hey, we're still not having it. And of course, the BBC did its usual job of downplaying that because it's a completely controlled organisation.
totally.
But where we go from here, time will show. But unless we have a no deal Brexit, then we won't get the Brexit we voted for. And the thing about what happened is that Jeremy Corbyn and the rabble in general, called the political class, they took off the table right at the start a no-deal Brexit, at which point there was no negotiating power left. It's like my son Gareth described it very well. He said, if you go into a car showroom and you say to the sales person, I'm not going to leave the showroom without buying a car, well, you're not going to get a very good deal, are you?
Exactly,
But if you say, look, I've got lots of other options here, just give me the best deal you can, and I'll see if you top what others are going to give me.
That's it.
Then you're going to get the best deal the sales bloke or whatever can give you. So here's the bureaucrats in Brussels. The last thing they want is Britain to leave. And also they want to make it as difficult as possible as an example to every other country in Europe. This is what happens if you try to leave us.
But the thing is, David, my question is, I'll just ask everybody, like who are pro-Remain, tell us where it's working. Where is the EU working?
Well, the thing
ain't.
No, it isn't, because it's a centralised superstate designed to centrally control the entirety of Europe. I mean, the idea is not to let countries go, particularly countries like Britain, but to absorb more and more. That's the whole idea. It goes way back before the European Union.
Ireland isn't a sovereign country. That is now owned by the banks. France is just overrun with immigrants. I mean, there isn't a single country that's actually prospering from being in the EU. Where?
Yeah, but you see, that's not the idea. The idea is not for European countries to prosper. It's for European countries to be centrally controlled and transformed from the societies they were before. That's the whole point. So from the European project's point of view, things are going very well. But from the human society point of view, they are an absolute disaster. But let's not forget that I was born in 1952. So I'd been alive for a long time before we went into the common market. I remember what it was like before. Young people now don't know a country that wasn't in the EU. For them, it's new territory, and new territory is easy to demonize, and through Project Fear, for instance, and of course, you know, I've quoted in a new book which I've just finished a former KGB officer who was describing in 1985 how you take over a country through Marxism. And he was saying all you need is about 2 or 3 generations of control of the schools and colleges, and you'll take the country over because of the
Yeah.
change in attitude, the change in perception that you will indoctrinate into those generations. And what we're seeing now are those that have been through this extraordinarily extreme now programming process called education,
Yeah.
that they're now coming into a point of adulthood where they're entering politics. The classic is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez
crazy Cortez.
in America. So you're seeing this, and they have a completely programmed view of everything. This is how, if you chart it back through the education system and through the media underpinning the education system, this is how the traditional liberal left that used to demand freedom of speech and fairness and justice and equality, that it's been usurped and overtaken by a progressive mentality, Soros progressive mentality, that talks the same language but acts in exactly the opposite to the language, like you describe in what happened in Totnes. That's not the liberal left. That is fascistic. You look at Antifa. Antifa talks about being anti-hate when it is the very epitome of hate. It talks about being inclusive when it's the epitome of not being inclusive. I'll tell you a funny story. Well, I thought it was funny. We were having a premiere of Renegade in London, and what had been booked was a venue owned by the TUC, the Trade Union Congress, this umbrella organisation for people listening around the world of trade unions in this country. And then we had a premiere in Manchester, which went incredibly well. And then we were on a train the next day heading for London for the next one. About an hour outside of Euston, Jamie got a call or an email, and he was told it was off. The premiere was off. Fortunately, by the time we got to Euston, he'd found another venue because he's brilliant at that. But the reason what he said in the email was that they were cancelling the premiere because they believed in inclusivity. And they were saying that in an email that was excluding me and my film. You see, they have no self-awareness, these people.
None.
They have no ability for self-reflection and contemplation on the nonsense that they talk and the nonsense that their mind is manifesting for them. Because in the end, you see, we come back to it. It's all about virtue signalling. This is
Absolutely.
the TUC. We believe in inclusivity. We do, because we're lovely people and you're horrible. This is the mentality all over the world. In America, everywhere, you see the same mentality. And what we have to do is not have it. Stand up to it. If people say you can't say that, say it louder. You know, I mean, there's the Renegade, the film, is extremely irreverent to the system.
Who's actually making it, David? I didn't get to say that. Who's actually behind it?
It's an American.
Whose idea?
It's an American film company.
Okay.
It was. They don't sort of start out. We support your work, so we want to make a film. They started out from the premise of you've got a remarkable story to tell. You've lived a remarkable life. We'd like to make a movie about it. And we shot it in about 4 countries. I had nothing to do with the editing. They did all the editing. But because they were not initially into the information, they have edited it for a wide audience, which is exactly what they needed to do, and I'm extremely pleased with it. I say the premieres have gone down fantastic, and it just covers so many areas of information. And when you've got a movie and you've got special effects and using feature film level technology and cameras, you can portray things in ways that are really compelling in terms of explaining them. So I'm very pleased with it and how it's
Great.
turned out.
Brilliant. David, just because I know we're running out of time, I've just got a few questions that I just put out that, I was going to be having a chat with you. Did anyone have any questions? So I've got one here from Emma. She said, Lou, can you ask David if he thinks we're starting to win? What does he think happened to Max Spears? And also, what does he think the real reason for 5G is? So one at a time. The first one, are we starting to win?
Well, if I go back 30 years, we're so far forward in people understanding the game, or at least that the world's not what they thought it was. It's staggering.
How many people did you give your first talk to? 7 in one room, and now you're...
Oh no, that was a good night. I've talked to less. I've talked in people's front rooms, mate. It was tiny. So what's happening now is fantastic. And like I say, the fact they're trying to shut us down as silencers shows the effect that's being had. They wouldn't do that unless they were frightened of it.
So the answer, Emma, to your first question, are we winning? I think we are.
Let's say we're closer to winning than we ever have been. And if we weren't, they wouldn't be trying to shut everything down at the speed they are.
Exactly.
But the genie's out of the bottle now. And I know as someone who's been in this for 30 years, where I was walking down streets in the 90s being laughed at by people. I lived my life to the sound of distant and less than distant laughter. Now it's unbelievable. I went to a football match with my sons, the playoff final, Derby County and Aston Villa on Monday at Wembley. And in the journey up there, while I was there and the journey back, it was just extraordinary, the number of people that came up to you from so many different walks of life, wanting to talk about the information or saying, keep going, we're supporting you. It just shows you how far it's getting out there. So it's good. Yeah, we are making progress. There's no doubt.
Super. Max Spears, and what do you think happened to Max Spears?
I don't know. I mean, I did a few things to help his mother get the case to a point where there was, there was a proper coroner's court, but I don't know the background to that. No. It sounds very strange and very dodgy.
Very strange. And Isaac Cappy. I mean, how bizarre is that? And I don't know if you follow. He put out some video. Next thing, he's dead. Then you go back to Tom Hanks's Facebook page, and there's a picture of a dead snake. Hope it wasn't roadkill on the same part of Route 66 as where Cappy died. All very, 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 very interesting. Of what all that was about, I think that's going off on another subject.
Yeah, but
another day.
The thing is, there's a number of people that I've met over the years who are no longer with us, but no one said it would be easy. You just have to keep going and not be intimidated into silence under any circumstances. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? We leave this body and this crazy world and go and explore infinity forever. I mean, chill out. It's just an experience, and to get the most out of it, we must not be intimidated into silence or running away.
Exactly. Well, we're on that subject. Thoughts again to Robert Greene and his family. What a man! What a man! Okay, 5G very quickly, because this I know is a really long subject.
Yeah,
we could get in there for ages. But what do you think the reason behind 5G is?
Well, I've written about this in length. It's a weapon. It comes out of the military. It's a military weapon. You talk about frequency weapons and energy-directed weapons. That's what it is. And it's in this millimeter wave of frequency, which is extremely destructive to humans, not just in terms of if you like, the body, but also the mind, the psychology. And it's going to have a tremendous impact on a lot of people, because the effect in health and psychology on people already from the level of technological radiation that's being generated from 3G, 4G, etc., it has reached a point, like with vaccines, where the real story of the effect doesn't come out, because when people get this or get that, other explanations are given for it to explain it away, or the classic, well, we don't know, it's a mystery. when actually people are being affected. And, I watched an interview the other day with Barry Trower, who, of course, worked in the Navy and the military in electromagnetic technology and electromagnetic weaponry. And he said something very interesting because, the body, I've been writing about this for years, is an antenna. The skeletal structure is an antenna. DNA is a receiver transmitter of information. The skin is an antenna. The sweat ducts are an antenna. And so we are picking up frequencies all the time. And he was pointing out that if you want an antenna to do certain things, then it has to be the right length. And he was pointing out that children, of the size of children, their antenna is the perfect range to actually absorb phenomenally more of these frequencies than an adult who's much taller. They'll still absorb them, but not in the same way. Also, of course, the child's skull is much thinner, and therefore the brain's affected by these frequencies much more powerfully. And the idea that you have these boxes all the way down the street pounding this stuff out, which is the plan, is just as scientists have pointed out, a biological experiment on humanity, except that it's not, because those in the shadows, which were really behind it and know the impact, they're not experimenting at all. They know exactly what is planned, and this is a whole big subject which you keep going.
It is. That's a whole other show.
I mean, I could do 2 hours straight on it, really. But the 5G, you've only got to look at the fact that it's been introduced. It's being introduced without any independent testing that's paid for officially. And I don't know whether you saw that clip of a committee on Capitol Hill about a month, 6 weeks ago, where they were asking representatives of the telecommunications industry.
Yes, I did see it.
How much independent testing have you funded? And the answer was zero. Because if they did and funded it officially and therefore had to reveal it, 5G would be banned. Because it's a weapon. It's now obviously a lot of people are starting to understand that they use 5G wavelengths to scatter crowds by pounding out the frequency from these vehicles that give the crowd the feeling that their skin is on fire, and so they scatter. But why do they feel their skin is on fire? Because their skin is an antenna, and it is decoding these frequencies into the feeling of their skin is on fire. So it's an absolute fundamental part of this whole agenda, because this smart grid, that's why everything's got smart in front of it, which is designed to be connected to everything through AI, including the human brain. For it to function as they want it to function, you have to have, or they have to have, communicative power of at least 5G and higher, because 5G is only where they're going now. And therefore, without 5G, they can't pull it off. That's why 5G is coming in, and that's why 5G is coming in without any independent testing.
Exactly. Next question, very quickly. Fabrice has many people who are against TTIP. When the US walked out of the Doha round of World Trade Organization talks, now seem to be all for it. It doesn't make any sense here. What are your thoughts on TTIP agenda through the EU propaganda?
Well, it's anything that centralizes power is the agenda, really. And they centralize power through organizations, political structures like the EU, and they centralize power through trading groups. So anything where a central point dictates to a lot of other countries. I mean, you look at the World Trade Organization and how from a single building they dictate what people can and cannot do in terms of trade all over the world. This is what they want. The World Health Organization is another example. Along with this world government, dictating to every community from a central point, not least through a world army, they want all these different, what you might call ministries or agencies, to be in one central point in the world, dictating to the entire world. The World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization are forerunners of what they want, like, everything to be. So, the trading groups are part of this stepping stone process of centralizing power. I mean, why the heck can't Britain produce for British people, and any surplus is then exported, and anything we need that we can't produce, we import.
Yeah.
And then you've got not just metaphorical or illusory sovereignty, you've got real sovereignty. You are controlling the land that you operate in by being self-sufficient to the greatest level possible. But instead now we have everything exported and imported, whether we need it or not, and of course it destroys the industries that were producing it in this country before. When I was a kid, right, we used to have tomatoes in the summer because they were seasonal, and then you didn't have in other parts of the world. You had parts of the year you had something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And funnily enough, it may stagger people, we didn't feel deprived. You know. So
do you remember when apples used to smell? As well, you could smell an apple. They had the smell against them. You know, everything is just so messed up. I mean, what your famous quote, everything is backwards.
Yeah, but the thing is that the more that you can control the food production and the production of essentials in a country by having them produced externally outside that country, the more control of that country you have, the more they are producing them locally. Why can't people just grow tomatoes in Dorset and sell them in Dorset?
Dorset, yeah.
Why do they have to buy them in from Spain? Why do we have to have this? And of course, what happens is when you centralize everything, you centralize production, you also therefore centralize, and we're seeing this with these vast warehouses from Amazon and all these other people, you centralize delivery. And if you centralize delivery, it means that you have to have vast trucks going long distances to deliver stuff, which could be made locally. But the economics of it, the way the ludicrous money system works, means that if you mass produce at a central point, although all these negative down things occur as a result of that, on basic money economics, it's cheaper, and therefore you can sell them for cheaper, and therefore you destroy local producers and local industries that could be producing locally for local people, which is how it used to be.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm only 67, and I remember a world in which this was happening. And it's been taken over, because the more you centralize power, whether it's economically or politically, the more the few and ever fewer control the very many. And that's what it's really about, not the benefit of people.
Absolutely. I mean, I know your thoughts on Trump. I must say I am pro-Trump. I think what he's done getting the jobs back into America, you know, I'm waiting to be proved wrong, but at the moment, you know, but it's good. I've just noticed how it can trigger like what we're calling the progressive left. If you say it, I mean, it's literally, you just watch them trigger if you ever say, like, you support Trump. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. But what he's doing is he's you know, the jobs that are coming back seeing that industry coming back into America, I think is a really great thing.
Well, if you're going to drain the swamp, you don't appoint John Bolton as your national security advisor.
No, that's fair shout. That's absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Just on some points, there are some points, but I mean, it's you know, I'm not disagreeing with anything you say at all there. I'm seeing jobs going back into America, the whole immigration thing, various things. I think he's all right on. Next question is from Trevor, who's over in Ireland. Can you ask David where he stands and what is his advice on the quandary of whether the vote or not to vote or just deregister? In Ireland last weekend, we had both the local and European elections, and the same cretins were voted in once more. Activists seem divided over the approach to take in, that most are blaming the over 50% that did not vote and say that not enough people will ever deregister in order to make a difference.
Well, I can't and I won't tell people what they should do. I can only come from my own conclusions.
Yeah.
Voting is worthwhile when you have a choice,
yeah.
a genuine choice, not the illusion of choice, a genuine choice. So, for instance, when you have a referendum of in the European Union or out, that is a clear choice. But if you're choosing between masks on the same face, basically, expressions of the same political class, I mean, what difference is there between the Conservative Party, the Labour Party? I'm talking about in fundamentals. The Change UK, what a pathetic mob that is.
Absolutely.
And the Liberal Democrats. I mean, these are not choices.
No.
And if you simply vote, I mean, there's that great line: "Don't vote; it only encourages them." And
never heard that.
And so, if you've got a genuine choice, it's like in this European election. You had a genuine choice to make a statement that you wanted to get out of the EU by voting for the Brexit party. So that was a genuine choice. In a one-off, it was a genuine choice. But most of the time, it's not a genuine choice.
No.
And of course, with first past the post constituencies, where you only have to have the right colour rosette in most of them to get in. You don't have to have a brain or anything. Politics is an irrelevance, really.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to see what happens, because Farage has given them the threat, hasn't he? If we're not out by October, we're running. And I'm almost hoping that they don't don't, just to see the look on all of those scumbags' faces when he smashes it.
Yeah, what you're seeing is what happens when you play politics as opposed to doing what you believe to be right. You've got Jeremy Corbyn, throughout his political career, has been against the EU, who becomes Labour leader and suddenly has a Damascus experience because he's playing politics. And I would say to Jeremy Corbyn, as I would say to people like people in America, that how old you have to be before you do what you know to be right instead of trying to play politics. How old do you have to be? Do you have to be 70, 80? When's it start? And what is the point? Oh, well, you've got to play politics to get elected. Well, what's the point of being elected?
Exactly.
What's the point, apart from your own egotistical prestige, of you being a prime minister of a government where you can't do what you say you want to do because you've played politics and stopped yourself doing it? Either you get elected on what you believe in and then you do it, which is called democracy. You say what you're going to do, and people say, "I like that. I'm going to vote for it," and then you do it.
That's it. Yeah.
But or you're going to play politics and therefore negate any good that you would have done. And this is a big lesson. We are in a time of great change, because it's a big lesson here. Because look at the parties who played, the two parties that played politics over Brexit, the Conservatives and the Labour. They got absolutely hammered because people are sick of it.
They are. They really are sick of it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, David, we're only going to do 45 minutes. We've done a 1 hour 10.
Okay.
And I'm happy days with that. I could talk all day. So what's next? Where are you? What's next on your crazy schedule? Where are you? What are you up to?
Well,
You having any time off for you?
I'm going to have a week watching steam trains in 2
No.
weeks. That's my.
Are you hooking up with Justin Walker?
No. I'm just going to plod along myself and watch some steam trains and see some countryside. That's the way I kind of like to chill. But I've just finished a new book, and it's going to come out.
When's it out?
It's coming out in September.
Okay.
And all I can say to you is, if I've been demonized and banned up to this point,
No.
you have seen nothing yet. So watch for that.
Well, we need to talk before that comes out again then.
Yeah.
We need to talk again. Well, if you want to come down to Devon, we'd love to have you. Come down and see us.
Okay.
We'd love to have you. Brilliant. David Icke, what can I say? We'll speak before the new book, and I can't wait for it to come out.
All right.
See how many folk you can trigger.
Oh, actually, that's kind of a bit of synchronicity.
Go on.
Because that's the name of the book.
Really? Oh, wow.
The Trigger. The Trigger. And
The Trigger.
And why it's called The Trigger, people will see when they read it.
Brilliant.
But it is, to say it's controversial is the understatement of any century. So watch for that one.
I can't wait. We do like a bit of controversy. David Icke, thank you so much.
Pleasure, thank you.
Have some chill out time.
Cheers,
I can't wait
Louise.
to see the film. Cheers, David.
Bye.
Bye.